Unit 5, Lesson 6, 6.2, Expressions with Altitude. A mountaineer is changing elevations. Write an expression that represents the difference between the final elevation and the beginning elevation. Then write the value of the change. The first one is done for you. So we're writing an equation where it has the difference between the final and the beginning. So the final was 900, and since it's a positive, we don't have to always put the plus sign. If we have a number and it's a positive, it's there. If it's a negative, we'll always write the negative to make the difference between them or to show it. So 900 minus, because it's saying the difference between, and then 400. We wouldn't put the positive here, so just 900 minus 400, and it's a change of a positive 500. We would put the positive here because we need to know what kind of change it was. Was it a positive change or a negative change? So technically, I guess you wouldn't have to have the positive, but since it's asking us, we'll put it there. But just make sure you put a negative if it's a negative. So let's try these. It says that we're starting with the final, so 50 minus the beginning, which is 400. Well, what is 50 minus 400? You have a positive, and then you're like went up 50 in elevation, but then you went down 400. So you end up with a negative 350. Because that's a difference between 50 and 400. If you had $50 and you had to pay for something that was $400, you'd be negative $350. If that's another way you could think of it, as in money. How about this one? We're negative 120 minus 400. Well, we're already starting off negative, and then we're going negative even more. So really, we're taking these two things and combining them. Just like here, we took a positive 50 and we combined it with a negative 400. And if it helps to circle, you could do that. Negative 120 and another negative 400, which would be a bigger negative, negative 520. Again, you could think of it as money. You're short $120, and then you have to pay $400 more. Now you're short $520. 610 minus, this is a negative 200. So negative 200 here. Remember what happens if you have two negative signs next to each other? They combine to become a positive. So 610 plus 200 equals a positive 810. Let's go down more. Start with negative 50 minus, this says negative 200. Again, I cannot have two negatives next to each other. That becomes a positive 200. So negative 50 plus 200 equals a positive change because 200 is bigger than 50, and it's a positive, so my answer is a positive, and then I just subtract them. 200 minus 50 is 150. Next one, negative 500 minus a negative 200. Again, we're going to turn this into plus 200. So I have negative 500 and positive 200. 500 is bigger than 200, and 500 is negative, so my answer is going to be negative when I combine them. And then I just subtract. 500 minus 200 is 300. So that's a change of negative 300. Last one, 0 minus negative 200. Once again, can't have those next to each other. 0 plus 200 is a positive 200. All right, does the order matter? Let's see. Find the value of each subtraction expression. So I'm going to come over here to this side first. 3 minus 2 is 1. 5 minus a negative 9. Minus a negative means plus, so 5 plus 9 is 14. Negative 11 minus 2 more, 2 negatives make a bigger negative. Since the negative signs are not next to each other, that means these two are separate. And I have two of them that I'm combining, two negatives, so negative 13. Negative 6 plus 3. Negative and a positive. Negative 6 is bigger, so my answer is a negative, and then 6 minus 3 is 3. Negative 1.2 plus 3.6. And if I put this here, I have a positive 3.6 and a negative 1.2. Which one is larger? Well, the 3.6 is larger and it's a positive, so my answer is going to be a positive, and then I just subtract them. So I could go 3.6 minus 1.2, line up my decimals, 6 minus 2 is 4, 3 minus 1 is 2, so it's a positive 2.4. Negative 2.5 plus 3.5. Well, if I have a negative half and a positive half, these cancel out, and a negative 2 plus 3 is a positive 1, right? So if I have a negative 2 and a positive 3, 3.5, this was negative 2.5. Notice negative half and a positive half would cancel. Negative 2 and a positive 3 is a positive 1. Let's come over here. 2 minus 3, negative 1. Negative 9 minus 5 more, negative 14. 2 minus negative 11, so 2 plus 11 is 13. Negative 3 minus a negative 6, so negative 3 plus 6. 6 is larger. I notice they're opposite signs, so I have to wait. 6 is larger, it's a positive, so my answer is going to be a positive. 6 minus 3 is 3. Negative 3.6 plus 1.2. Negative 3.6 and a positive 1.2. Again, 3.6 is larger and it's a negative, so my answer is a negative. And then I just subtract them. Well, I already did that over here. 3.6 minus 1.2 is 2.4, but this time it's a negative because my number started off as a negative. My bigger number was a negative. Notice over here, my bigger number was a positive, so my answer was a positive. I did the same process. It's just over here, my bigger number was a negative, so my answer is a negative. Negative 3.5 plus 2.5. Once again, same thing as the other side. I have a negative half and a positive half, so those will cancel. Negative 3 plus 2 would be a negative 1. So we have our numbers. What do you notice about the expressions in column A compared to column B? And what do you notice about their values? Because remember, this one was, does the order matter? So if you notice, the numbers are switched, right? 2 and 3 and 3 and 2, these are switched. And we end up with opposite answers. Those are called additive inverses. When they're opposites, by adding, it's an additive inverse. It's the opposite. So negative 3, positive 3, 2.4, negative 2.4. So because we switched their order, it also changed them from positive to negative or negative to positive. So order does matter in this.